Would a real God let his chosen people suffer defeats? That's the challenge for this week. And here's how they phrase the objection. They ask this: if God chose the Jews as his chosen people, why do they suffer so many defeats and tribulations at the hands of their enemies? The outcome of many of these conflicts would make it appear that God had chosen the other side instead. This is best exemplified by the Jewish-Roman War in the 1st century AD, where the Romans slaughtered the Jews all the way from Jerusalem to the final stronghold of Masada. It makes no sense that the people backed by an all-powerful God would fall victim to its non-God-aided enemies. Now, I have 3 thoughts regarding this particular challenge. And here's the first one. God is a just God, and he's obligated to judge sin regardless of who commits it. So certainly there were people around Israel, other nations that engaged in all sorts of criminal and sinful behavior. They worshiped false gods, they sacrificed their children to Molech, and did other kinds of things. And of course, God judged those people. But God is if you will, an equal opportunity judger, and he judges sin regardless of who commits it. And so when Israel, his own chosen people, decided to engage in sin as well, he also was obligated then, in order to be consistent, was obligated to judge those people as well, to judge Israel. And so God's going to judge sin regardless of who commits it, even if it's his own people. It's almost like a good father who punishes his own children when they do wrong. Certainly he's going to uphold justice regardless of where he sees it, but even a good father is going to punish and discipline his own children because he's trying to be a just father and trying to teach his children how to live appropriately and teach them appropriate lessons. Now, my second thought is that by God choosing Israel as his people, this does not mean that somehow Israel is sort of God's favorite team, and whenever they are involved in some kind of a conflict, then God's going to back them and wipe out and destroy all of their enemies. And so, for example, if there was one Jew against 1 million people, then God's going to destroy those 1 million people regardless of what happens. And this assumption presumes that sort of God is trying to ensure that Israel wins every single war that they are involved in. But of course, that's not the case, because if that was the case, then Israel would then eventually become the leaders of the world, because after every engagement, no matter what the odds were, they would win. And then Israel would sort of control the whole world. But that's not the whole purpose that God has in mind. In fact, this mistake was similar to the mistake the Jews had when Jesus showed up. A lot of the Jews said, well, if you're the Messiah, then you're going to deliver us from the Romans. You're going to deliver us from this oppression that we are facing under the Roman people. But of course, even in that case, the purpose of Jesus' coming was not to remove Israel from under the oppression of the Romans or to deliver them from some sort of political oppression and to make them sort of leaders of that particular region. God had a different plan. Jesus had a different purpose. And it's this third thought that I have that sort of explains what that purpose and reason was. And I think there's at least 2 reasons or 2 explanations as to why God chooses a people. And the first is God chose Israel, or chose a special people, so that they would be God's representatives on earth. The Israelites would be God's chosen people that would represent God, and that they would be the ones who worship the true God, so that other nations could see that and believe in that God and follow that God. So Israel, in a sense, is a representative of God on earth. And I think the second reason that God chooses a people is so that he can then have, through the Israelite people and through that bloodline, eventually the Messiah would come. And of course, that Messiah would be the person who represents humanity to God. So the Jewish nation is God's representative on earth, and Jesus becomes humanity's representative to God. And so that's really what's going on behind God choosing a special people. It's not about helping man win wars. Rather, it's about helping God win souls.